So we all know that life isn't all about money, but it would be pretty nice to be a millionaire. So what we're gonna do today in this video is break down some of the habits and strategies that people have used before us to build wealth. And what's great about this is that there's about 50 million millionaires in the world, which means that this path has been laid out before us, and we can kind of, in a sense, mimic or copy some of the ideas or the strategies and the ways that people live their lives who are financially successful in an attempt to hopefully find more success financially for ourselves. So today what we're gonna do is we're gonna dig into some of these different habits, and it turns out that only about 12% of millionaires actually have inherited the majority of their wealth. So this is a really interesting statistic, but what I found from this is that it really is possible for anyone to build wealth over their lifetime. So we're not going to discuss some of the cliche habits such as reading, eating healthy, exercising. We know those are habits that are commonly practiced by financially successful people, but let's talk about some ones that are a little bit different, some things that have helped me 10x my income, increase my productivity, and I found to be really, really valuable. So one of the first habits that I adopted was journaling. Now, I don't like to call it this because for the most part, 90% of what I write down on an everyday basis is primarily business oriented, but people have different reasons for writing things down. I think it's very important for people to essentially dump their thoughts and have them on paper somewhere written down. Now, there's a variety of reasons for this, one of them being that it helps with clarity when thinking about long-term goals, especially if you're trying to build wealth or you have specific goals for yourself in the coming years. By writing them down and having that there for yourself to look at, there can be times where maybe you have some struggles, maybe you have some problems or something that you need to overcome. You can go back and look at what you wrote, look at what you were thinking last week, last month, 5 years ago, to better understand your direction that you should be or you had planned on going when you were writing things down. Now, this is also great for other things not related to business. I think people who are struggling with depression or struggling with issues in their life, writing it down can, in a sense, be somewhat therapeutic. And I think it can be all around a positive for most people to just write things down, dump your thoughts onto paper. And I go through one of these probably almost every quarter. I just write down a lot of my ideas in them, and it really does help me a lot with everything in my life. And I go back over these after the year and I look at what I wrote down, and sometimes I laugh, sometimes I think, wow, this is great that I've been hitting some of these goals, I've been lacking here, but I'm gonna write down more in the future. So the other habit that I think is very important for people to adopt, and I learned this by studying a number of billionaires actually, is to focus on producing instead of consuming when you find yourself with some free time. So a great example of this is most people, when they have some free time, maybe this is after work, maybe this is before work, or maybe on a Sunday, most people choose to consume content. Maybe this is Netflix or watching movies or finding some type of entertainment. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with this. I watch movies, even the most successful people in the world watch movies and TV, but what I found is that a lot of millionaires and billionaires will, with their free time, instead of consuming content, they'll focus on building skills. And this could be something as simple as playing guitar. But the difference is, if you're focusing on building skills in your free time, it's going to make you, in the eyes of the world, more valuable as a person because you have more skills. This could be reading a book an hour before bed instead of watching TV to increase your human capital. But it's something to build more skills and focus on always trying to be somewhat productive for the most part. You can obviously splurge a little bit and go watch some movies or watch some TV, but try to limit it in a sense so that you're always focusing on growing, learning new things, building new skills, and becoming more valuable as a person in the eyes of the world. So after reading a few books on Bill Gates, I learned that he likes to do something over his entire life, which is known as Think Week. So this is something that Bill does, who is, as you probably know, the richest man in the world. He just passed Jeff Bezos again to take his #1 spot back at something like $100 billion or more in his total wealth. Now, what Bill does is every week every year he will take a week and he'll go into a cabin somewhere, isolate himself from the world, and just spend that time thinking and reading about life and about ideas. But the purpose of this, from what I've learned, is to kind of take a step back from time to time. If you're focusing on goals or you're focusing on trying to grow in some way, sometimes it's important to take your head away from the grindstone and think, am I going in the right direction that I want to be going? And that's why there's some people like, say, Gary Vaynerchuk, who's great for motivation, but sometimes if people are so much focused on just working, they never take a step back and say, where am I actually going here, and how can I strategize and find a better, more efficient way to complete this task? And so I think taking a step back, doing something even such as meditating to really kind of get in a state of mind where you are very clear on what you are doing, I think it's something that really does help. So meditating and taking some time to think. Sometimes I'll go for very long walks, sometimes for hours at a time, to really just clear my brain and to take a step back for myself. Now, the fourth habit here that I think is incredibly important that I didn't actually start implementing until the past few months, and it really has increased my productivity, is by doing something called block scheduling and filling out a calendar religiously. So the point of this is that, look, for years, I would try to balance all these different things and these tasks that I had on an everyday basis without actually writing them down. So what I do now, it's very simple. I just use my phone, I use Google Calendar, and I fill out this calendar. It's absolutely packed with everything that I have to do for that specific day. Now, if you're not running a business and you're just trying to build wealth through maybe the stock market, then I still think that having a calendar, it's just going to help so much. You're gonna forget less parties that you have to go to on a Saturday because you totally blew it off and your mind was going in 5 different directions at the same time. I found that just keeping a calendar, it's so easy. You should really start doing it. I used to do this on a physical calendar that I still hang up on my wall. I don't really fill it out anymore because I'm generally find myself not always in my apartment, so it's easier to do it on my phone and on my computer on an everyday basis. Now, people like Bill Gates and Elon Musk and some of the most successful people in the world literally block out schedules in their day by 5-minute increments. So this is for some serious productivity. Not everybody's going to want to do this, and I don't go to that level of 5-minute increments, but it does certainly create some order in your life. And having some type of routine in your life is going to help. You don't have to schedule out when you're gonna poop and when you're gonna do all these other things, but just having some type of routine of when you're gonna wake up, what time you're going to start working, what time you're gonna work out, what time you're going to take care of certain things, and what times for spending time with family, so that you have this all fixed, so that instead of what most people do is they find themselves kind of running around trying to be productive, but they have all these different things that come up, and they're getting ready to work, and then all of a sudden they have to make dinner, and then they eat dinner, and then they have to clean the dishes, and then they try to get back to work, and then they remember it's trash night, so they have to go take out the trash, and then they start to get back to work, and then they remember they have to call somebody to fix some problem that they have, and then they never actually get to working or focusing on that skill that they're trying to develop or that goal that they're trying to reach. So just keep that in mind. Scheduling everything out is really going to help with productivity all around the board. So the last habit that I want to share with you today is networking. Now, I, for a very long time, disregarded this. I thought, you know what? I don't really need to network with millionaires or people who are very successful from a financial standpoint in order for myself to succeed. But the truth is that you are very much the average of the 5 people that you spend the most amount of time with. And I have said this previously on my channel, but it's so incredibly impactful in my life to know that the people that you associate with closely are going to be the people that you are going to become. So if you are spending time with drug addicts, you might end up being a drug addict yourself. Now, that's not always going to be the case 100% of the time, but the point here is that if you are spending time with people who are successful from a financial standpoint, chances are you're probably going to end up being successful financially as well, because that's going to be something that's going to be discussed very often when you're sitting around the table talking, or even when you go out to, say you go out to some bars somewhere and you're with successful people. They're probably going to be talking about success and kind of hyping each other up, and I found that it actually really does help in a lot of cases to associate with people like that. Now, I tend to try to associate with people who are very much driven towards their goals rather than people who just maybe inherited money. Spending time with trust fund babies, I don't find that to be very valuable very often because they probably didn't really work for all their money, so it's difficult to relate to them. I like to focus on trying to connect with people who have made money or found success for themselves on their own. And I think that's just something that I really love to do. So a great way to do this, look, you can just go through your town and find people who are real estate investors. Start to talk to them, start to understand how did they start to do this. You can talk to people who maybe you have somebody in your family who is seen as the successful one in the family. Talk to them, ask if they can, in a sense, mentor you or show you how they did what they did. You can even go onto LinkedIn. You can even just DM people on Instagram who are successful to find out what it is that they did and ask them for some tips on what they're doing. Now be careful of this. You don't want to have to go out and like spend money and pay somebody to mentor you. I think that's a bunch of baloney. You don't want to fall into that. But that's my opinion on this. So those are some of the habits that I adopted that have increased my income tenfold in the past 2 years. And there's something that I really am very passionate about. So thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate all the support. This channel is growing quite fast recently. So thanks for subscribing. Thanks for dropping a like on the video, and I'll see everybody in the next video.